MrBeast's invasion of China has been a staggering success. In less than a year, he's gained over 50 million followers on Chinese YouTube. His professionally dubbed videos are a viral sensation, racking up tens of millions of views. By all accounts, it's a masterclass in global expansion. But if I told you that from a strategic business perspective, this massive success is actually a sort of massive loss? What if this brilliant strategy has a hidden glass ceiling that is costing him, by my projections, a potential $1 billion? This is the story of a 9-figure paradox. We're gonna conduct a deep dive investigation that reveals MrBeast's true multi-billion-dollar ambition in China, but also the one critical flaw in his current plan, a single billion-dollar roadblock that could stop this entire global expansion dead in its tracks. And how do I know this? Because this is what I do. I'm Sheldon, and for years I've been obsessed with one problem: the gap between my cultural identity and real-world opportunity. I was so obsessed that I had to build a solution for myself, and that solution unexpectedly blew up into a multi-million-dollar business. And it blew into an absolute love and passion for business. And so this isn't just theory for me. I'll be sharing the whole breakdown of MrBeast's high-stakes gamble today, along with the single threat that can topple MrBeast, aka Ye Shou Xiansheng, entire Chinese empire. But now, before we can understand how MrBeast is losing money, let's audit the empire to understand the stakes. As YouTube's first billionaire, MrBeast's wealth rests primarily on two core pillars. Pillar one, the media machine, aka ad revenue and sponsorships. This is pretty much the foundation of his fame. From calculations, in 2025 actually, his YouTube AdSense alone is projected to bring in over $100 million. Brand sponsorships add tens of millions more on top of that, but surprisingly, this is actually his smallest revenue stream, because he has pillar two, the commerce empire, aka merch, and the real empire, Feastables. This is the real monster. So in 2024, his business ventures, led by Feastables, generated a staggering $700 million in revenue. This is nearly 8 times his ad revenue, proving his business is no longer about views, right? It's about selling products. And the fact that MrBeast's biggest source of income now is not his YouTube channel, but rather his consumer packaged goods, or CPG for short, this is going to be a very key point that we'll bring up a bit later on. But for now, the question is this: why did he expand to China when China doesn't even allow YouTube in the first place? And more importantly, how is he using the China expansion to pour jet fuel on all of these pillars? Let's investigate. Starting with pillar one. All right, let's get into it. So on the surface, the China move seems like a simple play for more viewers, right? You want to get more viewers in China, let's go to China, right? But when we look at the numbers, the puzzle gets deeper. So now, if you don't know, any YouTuber's base income is determined by what's called AdSense. Those annoying ads you see before the video, yeah, those put food on the table for us. So now, how much money we make is determined by a value called RPM, which is actually the revenue a creator makes per 1,000 views, or revenue per million. Now, not every YouTuber has the same RPM, and not every video has the same RPM. And that's because RPM is determined by viewers. Not all of you see the same ads before every video, right? If you're in India, you might see an Indian ad. If you're in America, you might see an American ad. If you're into business, you might see a business ad. And if you're into toilet bowls, you might see a toilet bowl ad, right? If you're into Labubus, you might see a Labubu ad. And for all these ads, advertisers pay a different amount to basically advertise to you. And so as a creator, if you are a business person, you saw a business ad, oh, I might have made a certain amount. If you're from India and you saw, an Indian ad about something, I made a certain amount. That's different. And if you're someone who loves Labubus, then I made a different amount as well. And then what they do is they average out all those different amounts, and that becomes the video's RPM. So now, why is this important? Well, on YouTube, the highest RPM comes typically from American audiences who are typically older and into things like more businessy type stuff. Why? It's because this audience typically has more disposable income, so advertisers are willing to pay more to advertise to them, right? For example, a video about, mortgage lawyers might get very little views, but that video might actually have a much higher RPM than, for example, on Canamando, our main channel, that video has a pretty low RPM because that's all entertainment type stuff, right? And so it doesn't make that much from AdSense itself. For example, a video about mortgage law might be very niche. It might get a lot less views, but it might make a lot more in AdSense than, for example, even our Cantomando videos about, food entertainment. And the reason why is because that mortgage law audience, well, the advertisers are willing to pay more to advertise to them. And so what happens is that video has a higher RPM as a result, and it could be 10 times higher, for instance. So for example, 10,000 views on that video. And so what that means is that 10,000 views on that mortgage law video might make more in AdSense than 100,000 views in our, eating spicy for 24 hours challenge. And so with USA's GDP per capita being $89,000, it's pretty high. I was pretty surprised. And China's being $13,688. It then makes sense that ads shown to a USA audience are going to make way more than ads shown to a Chinese audience. Make sense? And it's actually about 7 times more, which is why across the board on YouTube, data shows an RPM of about 0.94 versus just 0.15 on Bilibili, which is China's version of YouTube. This is significantly less. Now, of course, let's also note that with a massive Chinese audience, right, this, his MrBeast's global sponsorship packages become immensely more valuable, right? Like an extra 10 to 20 million in revenue because, with this Chinese asset, MrBeast can charge more to global brands that operate in China, like Samsung, who MrBeast has worked in the past. So you can be like, hey, Samsung will work with me on the MrBeast YouTube channel. Well, why don't you also work with me on my China channel? Because you guys also sell in China, right? But we can see that either way, while the Chinese views are cool for MrBeast and makes some extra income and makes his media machine more capital efficient, you can see it's not going to be the big difference maker for him, right? And it's certainly not going to be, the jet fuel that you think it'd be, right? Because, hey, MrBeast's YouTube income accounts for such a small amount of his income, and then the Chinese one is much, much smaller, right? It's not a big deal for him. And so views alone in China is not going to be that billion-dollar opportunity for him. But that's fine for MrBeast because for him, it's just the first clever step in a much bigger plan. But it's a plan that's going to have Jimmy leaking money if Jimmy doesn't fix this one thing. Pillar 2, his commerce empire, right? How is him in China going to pour jet fuel on all his income? Now in this section, right, I'm going to geek out a little bit on business. I'm going to try and make everything as clear as possible and explain it in simple terms, but we might have a couple business terms that we have to explain, okay? So now, before we get into how the real plan is kind of struggle, let's go into what that plan is, because here's the secret sauce to his entire operation, in my mind. Okay? The media expansion's real prize is one thing, and one thing only: Feastables. The Chinese snack market is worth nearly $7 billion, and for MrBeast, capturing even a tiny slice of that is a monumental win. So now, to give you some perspective, if every American bought one $3 Feastable bar, that'd be $1 billion in revenue for MrBeast. On the other hand, if every Chinese person in China bought a $3 Feastable bar, that'd be $4.8 billion in revenue for MrBeast. That's a pretty big difference. We're talking billions. Billions. And so, like, it's pretty worth it for MrBeast to go to China, right? But to understand how he plans to win in China, we need to do a deep dive into the single most important metric for any business. From your local doctor's office, to the real estate agent trying to sell houses, to the software startup founder, to a global giant like Nike. And this is called customer acquisition cost, or CAC for short. So what is CAC? It's simply the total amount of money you spend on marketing and sales to get one new paying customer. Okay? So imagine we have two new dentists that charge the same prices for their services. Okay? Bethel and Jenny, both in LA San Gabriel Valley. Let's start with Bethel. She spends $5,000 her first month on online ads to attract new patients. Those ads are seen by everyone in her area, and let's say from that, 50 new patients pay for a cleaning to book an appointment, right? Dental cleaning. So in this case, because she spent $5,000 and got 50 paying patients, her CAC, or customer acquisition cost, is $100 per patient. That's Bethel. Now imagine Jenny, another talented dentist also in LA San Gabriel Valley. She spends the same $5,000 as Bethel, but because Jenny is fluent in English, Cantonese, and Mandarin, she also includes that in her ad. She's able to attract all the Chinese customers as well in the San Gabriel Valley, and as a result, she got 70 paying patients. Her CAC is $70. And so what we see here is that for the same amount of money spent on ads, Jenny gets more customers. She got 70, Bethel only got 50, and as a result, makes more than Bethel. With the clinic making more, Jenny's able to invest more into offering better services as well as staff. And so with that extra money, she also adds, let's say, an Indian dentist to her team. Immediately, all the Indian clients rush to Jenny's clinic as they're more comfortable with the additional Hindi and Punjabi services. Over time, Bethel cries as her business dies as more and more of her clients migrate to Jenny's business, which costs the same but provides a better service because Jenny makes more because her CAC is lower, which costs the same but provides better service. And that's the power of having a lower CAC, right? Your goal in business is to always get this number as low as humanly possible. A high CAC will kill your business, right? Low CAC will make you the best, right? If Bethel, let's say, spent $1 to get that customer and she made $70 off that same cleaning, well, she's basically swimming in money. Now, it's important to note that CAC isn't the only number that matters in business. There's other ones, but that's beyond scope of this video. But we'll cover one more later on. Anyway, so this is the game that MrBeast is playing, but on a global scale, right? He's trying to get his CAC as low as possible. Now, normal brands entering China, CPG brands specifically, have an astronomically high CAC. China's a very competitive market. They have to spend hundreds of millions on traditional ads just to get noticed, right? That's why typically when you see Western brands go to the West, you only have the most famous ones go, right? Nike, Adidas, those ones, right? Because they have the money, spend a lot of money to get a customer. But luckily for someone with MrBeast's level of fame, his CAC becomes extremely low. How low? A simple 60-second video posted and shared to his massive following of 50 million people is free. He doesn't need to pay for ads at all. So where's the issue here? Why do you say that MrBeast might be, having a problem? How is he gonna lose out on $1 billion? Well, it boils down to a concept in business called LTV, or lifetime value. So to understand how this works, let's go back to our two dentists, Jenny and Bethel. Okay? Let's say that in both of their ads, they featured a promo called, half off your first dental cleaning. So it'll be $70 for your first ever dental cleaning if you came from the ad, and then in the future it'll be $140, right? Now, if we remember our example earlier, we had Bethel's CAC at $100 while Jenny's was $70. Wait, hold on, Sheldon, wait. So if Jenny spent $70 in ads to get a customer and the customer only paid her $70, didn't she make nothing? Let alone Bethel, who spent $100 on ads, she lost money then, right? On top of that, both had to pay their staff too and rent. I mean, how do they survive, right? Business is not easy, guys. They can't, right? If we only count that one visit. See, and that's where the concept called LTV comes in. It refers to the lifetime value of a customer. See, a client that visits Jenny for the first time and gets her cleaning, well, let's say Jenny says, you gotta come next time for the cleaning. In fact, you gotta come 8 more times over the next 2 years. And so while she breaks even on the first visit, the next visit, the client comes in and pays full price at $140, right? And same with every visit after that. And so in reality, Jenny spent $70 on ads, but in reality, she makes $70 on the first one, but 140 times 8 on all those subsequent visits. And so let's say after 2 years, customers like, screw it, I don't want to see you anymore. Well, in this case, Jenny spent $70 on ads and made $1,190. The lifetime value of that specific customer was $1,190. Because Jenny already paid the money to acquire that customer, and the next time the customer comes, well, Jenny's just gonna be like, hey, just come next time at an appointment. Jenny doesn't need to pay ads again to get the customer to come back. And so every single payment that Jenny gets from the customer at this point on is free. She doesn't need to spend any marketing. And so what that means is that Jenny spent $70 to basically make back $1,190, which sounds like a pretty great trade to me. Now, even Bethel, who lost money on that first visit, well, let's say her client stays for 3 additional visits before she leaves for Jenny. Well, that means she spent $100 to make $70 in the first visit, plus $140 per subsequent visit times 3, which is about $490. And so while this is not as good as Jenny, spending $100 to make $490 still sounds like a pretty great trade to me too. And that's why the most important figure for a business to optimize is what's called LTV, or lifetime value. Because if Jenny's LTV is better than Bethel's, she can feel confident spending more on ads because she knows that she's gonna make it back on the back end, right? With Jenny spending more on ads and them doing better, Bethel is unable to out-advertise Jenny and eventually has to shut down, right? So that's how the game of business works. So now, how does a business increase LTV? Especially a business like MrBeast's Feastables. Well, we'll get into it for MrBeast, but first let's understand for Jenny because it's a simpler example with a dentist, right? We all go to the dentist. For Jenny, the first most basic way is through providing great service, right? With her able to service in English, Mandarin, and Cantonese, well, patients feel comfortable around her because she speaks their language, and so they want to keep coming, right? The second main way is by offering a range of products. Say a patient visits and all she has is cleaning. Well, then at most, she can make per visit $140. Her LTV, therefore, is $140 times how many visits that person has over their lifetime, right? But let's say Jenny is smart and she now offers cavity fillings for $300 and whitening for $400. Then now her LTV skyrockets to potentially $840 per visit if the patient wants that every single time. So 2 ways to maximize LTV for a business. One is provide amazing service that they want to keep coming back. And 2 is basically introduce more products that they can buy more each time, right? And the ideal business basically maximizes both of these, right? And so how does this relate to Feastables? Well, this is where I believe Feastable will struggle in China. See, I've had Feastables before and I'm not gonna lie, it's okay. Like, it's not bad, right? But it's not a game changer, right? I didn't eat it and was like, oh my God, this is amazing, right? Like, even in the American market, which is not as competitive as China's, I don't think it's a chocolate game changer. And so people will definitely buy it once because it's like, oh shoot, I never tried MrBeast's chocolate. But if we were to base it off taste alone, a lot of people probably wouldn't pay the premium for it over Hershey and all the other chocolate options out there. It doesn't stand out. And that's not a knock on him, it's just chocolate bar. And so why do people keep buying it then? Well, it's because we don't base all our buying decisions off of the quality of it. We don't base our buying decisions off taste alone, right? A hardcore MrBeast fan will buy over and over again because they want to support their favorite creator to make more amazing videos, right? Because they want to, on their site, end child labor in the cocoa industry, right? Because they know their money goes towards funding MrBeast videos that, cure blindness in America and, build water wells for the needy. And so for MrBeast's chocolate brand, we can see that there's a direct correlation between LTV, how many times someone keeps buying or how many flavors they want to try of the chocolate brand, and his personal brand. Because MrBeast's personal brand is not the same in China as it is in America. The audience in China is not the same as the American one. See, MrBeast isn't giving money to Chinese people. He's not curing blindness in China. Do you really think that the Chinese audience feels the same level of attachment as Americans do, when they watch an American win life-changing money? No, know, be real, right? It's not even in their language. And so sure, when Feastables launched in China, they might have a great launch because of the hype. Everyone wants to try it. But for all intents and purposes, MrBeast in China is just another American who's trying to profit off the Chinese market by giving nothing back. Would they repeatedly buy more expensive chocolate bars to support him when there's so many snack options that are amazing in China? No. So for MrBeast to boost his personal brand and really build the same level of trust and attachment in China as he has in America, there's really two options that I kind of looked at, right? Option one, begin making Chinese specific content for China with Chinese contestants. Option two, learn at least some basic Chinese and engage with Chinese fans. So which option's better? Well, we're gonna evaluate each option with what's called the ICE framework, which is a very common framework businesses use to evaluate different options. It stands for impact, confidence, and ease. So let's look at option one. Impact, 10 out of 10, right? Lots of impact. You know, giving money and supporting Chinese people will lead to a lot of respect from Chinese people. They're gonna love these videos and they're gonna be like, wow, this is amazing, right? Confidence now. I give this one a 3 out of 10 because confidence isn't about being sure of the problems, but being sure of a successful outcome. And the risks are very plentiful here for MrBeast if he wants to do the exact same videos and remake different China versions of it. First off, monetization risks. Low RPMs on Chinese platforms could make the high cost model where he basically just gives away billions of dollars financially unsustainable, right? They actually might come at a big loss if they make China specific videos and they give away the same amount of money as they do in America. Second, regulatory risks. The Chinese government has strict controls on content and capital, and a giveaway of $1 million, you know, he might not be able to do that like all the time. It might have some like hurdles that he'll have to overcome, right? And third is cultural risks, right? Because sure, he's doing really well on Chinese YouTube, but if he makes Chinese specific content, you know, like what works really well in the West might not translate perfectly. And sometimes people could see it as, you know, culturally tone deaf if it's not executed the right way. And so with all that, you know, we're not really fully confident that we can, you know, execute it as beautifully as we'd hope, right? Now let's look at ease. Okay, this is a 1 out of 10, all right? This is logistically a nightmare. Like it requires building an entire division in a foreign country with complex business laws, right? Vetting a trustworthy world-class production team, because MrBeast is not gonna sacrifice on quality at all, and navigating permits for large-scale shoots and managing like international cash flow. This is probably one of the most difficult expansion plans possible. Trust me right now, like China is a place where like it doesn't work the same as America, right? There's different rules for things, and if you don't know what you're doing, it can be quite tough. Now let's look at option two, which seems a little bit silly, like just learn some Chinese, but let's go over the ICE breakdown of it, okay? Impact, 10 out of 10, lots of impact. Nothing makes Chinese people happier than seeing someone, especially someone who's like foreign, make the effort to actually learn their language, right? It would show fans in China that MrBeast cares about his Chinese fans and their language and culture. And he's not just trying to suck money out of them. The ability to connect with fans directly, as opposed to through a translator, means that marketing campaigns will likely be a lot more effective, which would lower CAC for him even further. On top of that, widespread sharing of, you know, white guy MrBeast speaking Chinese would make his audience grow even more, and it also help him win more sponsorship deals in China as well. There's also a secret business strategy this would unlock for MrBeast if he were to learn Chinese, which we'll cover shortly. But let's go on to confidence, right? This is a 9, confidence. This is a straight up 9, okay? Financial risk, this is significantly lower, okay? Now, Chinese is actually the most expensive language in the world to get fluent in, and on average can cost thousands to get fluent, okay? Because let's say you go to university, you gotta take Chinese 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way there. It costs a lot of money, right? But let's be real. For someone who's a billionaire, let's say it's $22,000. $22,000 for a billionaire is equivalent to $1. Even if you were to go crazy and get the best possible Chinese training in the world and spend $100,000 on this, it would be like a rounding error to him. I mean, that's like a video to him. He could literally make that into a video and say, learn Chinese, win $100,000. Hey, I'm not leaving this room till I learn Chinese. Financially, it's the equivalent of us going to buy a Feastables. In fact, it's even less than that. The Feastables will actually cost us more money to pay for it than for MrBeast to drop $20,000 to learn Chinese. Last one's ease, right? This is a 4 out of 10, right? Learning Mandarin is personally very difficult. It's the hardest language in the world to learn, and it's time consuming, right? However, in the context of a business project, it's vastly easier than option one. The logistical complexity is minimal. I mean, it's just him studying, right? It requires scheduling and time for studying, but you know, it's not building an international company, right? It's not that much demand on his organization, and it's not that many resources. And even if it requires a high personal effort, it's something that he can do a lot on his free time, right? He can do it while he's doing something else. You can do it while he's in the gym, for example, right? While he's working out, right? There's a lot of ways you can learn while incorporating into your daily life, especially when you have money like him, right? You can hire a Chinese trainer who's also a Chinese teacher to teach him while he's getting his workout in. And I know MrBeast works out, right? On top of that, he doesn't even need to be really good for it to have an impact. I mean, let's be real. Asian American goes to China, says ni hao and doesn't speak that well. They're like, you're a shame to Chinese people. But white guy goes to China, says ni hao. 我的天哪，你的中文说得这么好. That's what happens every single time, right? They will be amazed. Based on the ICE model, I mean, the decision's not even close, right? Option 1 got a score of 30. Option 2 a score of 288. So just imagine instead of this.
How's it going, guys? Next Saturday at 12 p.m. Beijing time, I'm gonna be going live on Feastables.
Okay. He said directly to his millions of fans in Chinese. 兄弟们，这周六中午12点怎么样？我将在快手上直播. How much more impactful would that be than through subtitles? Honestly, it'd probably break the internet if he surprised fans with perfect Chinese. Even with bad Chinese, as long as it's not like ni hao xie xie, it's still break the internet, which we'll cover. And that's even without the secret benefit in China that it would unlock, which we'll cover shortly. But option 2 is the overwhelmingly superior strategy. It's low risk, high confidence move that builds the most valuable asset needed for Chinese expansion, authentic goodwill. It serves as the perfect strategy, allowing him to enter the market, learn its nuances, and build a true connection with his audiences so that they feel compelled to support him and buy his chocolate over and over again and allow him to replicate the same success that he did in North America, right? Chinese people would obviously support a white guy who put in the time and effort to actually learn their language. They'd be like, wow, you really actually care about us. We're not just some number to you. And the best thing is it's an option that only adds to MrBeast's most high leverage asset, which is his personal brand. The same personal brand that he leveraged to defeat dominant corporate giants like Hershey, and the same personal brand that he needs to improve in China if he wants to stand a chance in that market. Now, before I reveal the final secret customer acquisition channel that learning Chinese is actually going to unlock for MrBeast, it's going to unlock billions for him. Let's review something that's probably on your mind, right? After all this analysis, you're probably asking a fair question. Hey, if speaking Chinese is so powerful, I mean, why doesn't the CEO of Nike learn it? Why don't all CEOs learn it, right? Why doesn't Tim Cook learn it, right? And that question reveals the crucial difference between a traditional corporation and a creator-led empire like MrBeast's. See, in a company like Nike, the brand is the main asset. The CEO, the designers, the athletes, they're important, but they're replaceable, right? They're parts of a much larger machine. I mean, the truth is when LeBron retires, there's going to be the next person, right? Jason Tatum or whoever is the next Nike athlete, right? Everyone's a part of a much larger machine that's going to run with or without. But in the MrBeast empire, the dynamic is flipped. MrBeast is the brand. Every single asset, the YouTube channel, Feastables, is directly tied to his personal involvement. All advertising and marketing flow directly from him. And so it's great when things go well, but if MrBeast's image is in the slightest way tarnished, the entire chocolate bar brand is tarnished as well. And in private equity, this is referred to as E-man risk. Now, it's beyond the scope of this video, but it's important to highlight because it does mean that MrBeast is irreplaceable. Unlike Nike, who could just, hire a Chinese athlete to be the face of, Nike in China, MrBeast can't necessarily just hire a Chinese creator to be the face of Feastables in China. I mean, he could, but that person would be more of an affiliate for Feastables, right? They would be growing their own brand using his product, and it wouldn't necessarily multiply the value of the central MrBeast brand, which is what drives sales for Feastables, right? It's likely not going to lead to, remember we said earlier, a repeat buy because let's be real, like Feastables is not amazing. It's chocolate. You know what I mean? There's a million snack options in China. And so for a traditional company, learning Chinese it's a cool, valuable asset, right? But for a creator CEO like MrBeast or a doctor or a dentist or any kind of business where the person is the engine, it's a massive force multiplier. And that's why it's such a massive lever to pull. On top of that, it also unlocks this final strategy, which is live commerce. So what is live commerce? Think TikTok live shopping, but on China, it's on steroids. In China, it's like a small thing that's up and coming. The live commerce market in China is a cultural and commercial phenomenon, projected to be worth over $700 billion. Top hosts like Li Jiaqi, the lipstick king, can sell over $1 billion worth of products in a single day. You heard that right, $1 billion. I'm literally in China, and I'll tell you right now, the China version of Uber Eats, they have live shopping in there, meaning these restaurants, there's like videos of them doing lives to tell you to buy their food, like their Uber Eats food, like just literally buy your lunch. And this entire live ecosystem runs on one currency, real-time, authentic interaction. Professional dubbing is useless here. It's a world that is completely inaccessible without fluency because it's live, right? Like you want people to read subs live. I mean, sure, the new Apple, live translation, or you're gonna have like live subs, but you think that really has the same impact as someone who is speaking, right? Let's be real, right? Someone who is selling their chocolate in China and is actually speaking the language, right, that people understand versus, a white American guy speaking English telling you to buy his chocolate and you have to read subtitles. And he obviously did not put any effort to care about your culture. He's trying to make some money off of you. I mean, who are you gonna support, right? You're probably gonna support the Chinese guy. But with Mandarin, MrBeast could interact directly with the chat, right? Building a massive community community and driving insane sales. He can say things like 欢迎新朋友来到我的直播 Welcome friends to the stream, right? 只剩下一个，快点买 right? Only one left. Buy your Feastables now, right? This type of engagement, especially if a white guy does it, that builds a true dynasty, right? It shocks people right away to see a white guy speak Chinese, and it shocks people to basically, and it makes them compelled to watch, share, and also to potentially buy, right? Now, before we get further, I want to be clear here, right? Even if he doesn't learn Chinese, he'd probably still do well. But the answer is a crucial business concept called opportunity cost. And it's a fundamental belief that you need to have if you want to succeed in the world of business. And let's break this down, okay? Imagine Charles is a luxury real estate agent, you know, in the Bay Area of San Francisco, and he makes, let's say, $300,000 a year, right? He's doing very well among his American clients. But now, because he's ethnically Chinese, you know, native Chinese people flock to him for his services, but because his Chinese isn't that good, every single time a Chinese client comes up to him, he has to use a translator, and as a result, has a lower close rate, meaning he doesn't sell as often with these Chinese clients. He knows that if he could properly serve the wealthy Chinese immigrants in Chinese, he could easily make 50% more, especially because so many Chinese people reach out to him because he's Chinese. So for him, every year that he doesn't expand his services to serve those clients, he's not just failing to make an extra $150,000. From a strategic perspective, he's actively losing the $150,000 that he should have made. That potential profit was his for the taking, and by not acting, it's gone. For Charles to succeed, we need to view that opportunity cost not just as potential gain, but as a realized loss, to make him want to be like, hey, so you can say, hey, Charles, you know, do you want to keep losing that $150,000? Because it could be yours, but you're just trying to throw it away by not learning language. And that's the lens we need to use to analyze MrBeast in China, right? The $1 billion that he could be making isn't money vanished from his account, right? It's not there yet, but rather it's the colossal sum of money that he's actively leaving on the table by not being able to fully capitalize on the world's biggest market. And as we saw with Bethel and Jenny, right? Whoever has the best LTV and the lowest CAC is gonna win, right? And as we saw the way Jenny eventually just got rid of Bethel because she was able to out advertise, she was able to make more per customer, and so she was able to provide a better service as a whole, and therefore eventually Bethel couldn't even compete anymore, right? Which brings us to the final verdict. MrBeast's current strategy is a masterclass in market entry, right? He's doing amazing, but to take it from a successful launch to a permanent market leader in China and become the legend that I know he is, the final investment isn't in a bigger video, but rather in himself. For someone like him, learning Mandarin is the key that unlocks the final tier of the empire. I mean, there's still India after that, but I mean, you know, one at a time, right? But it transforms him from another foreigner trying to profit off of China yet again into a global icon speaking with China. And in the high stakes game of global commerce, that's the ultimate competitive advantage. For him, the stakes are billion. And for you, it might be, you know, the dream job, your relationship, or the business you've been always wanting to expand, right? The principle is the same, right? And by the way, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel so I can make more videos like this for you and share business knowledge.